My daughter called me trash and banned me from her wedding. But when the event collapsed and she begged me to save her big day, I hung up and never returned. What happened next broke them all. I'm 51 years old, I'm a truck driver, and 3 months ago I made the hardest decision of my life, but also the most necessary one, I think. I decided not to go to my daughter Victoria's wedding. And it wasn't just that, I basically ended the entire relationship with her. People tell me I'm a monster, that how can I do that to my own daughter? But the truth is I need to tell this whole story because if I don't, no one's going to understand why I got to this point. I've been carrying this for 24 years, and I just can't anymore. Everything started out well. I mean, my life with Carol was good at first. We got married super young. I was like 22 and she was 20. Neither of us had a penny to our name, but we were in love. You know, that naive kind of love where you think that's enough for everything. We both came from humble families, working class, normal people who broke their backs every day to survive. I started driving trucks because they paid decent, and Carol worked part-time at a clothing store while she finished her studies. We lived in a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was ours, and we were happy. I remember on weekends we'd cook together, watch movies on that old TV we bought secondhand, make plans to buy a house someday, have kids, all that stuff. When Victoria was born, I was 27, and Carol was 25. It was the happiest day of my life. No exaggeration. She was this perfect baby, with her mother's eyes and, I don't know. When I held her in my arms for the first time, I felt like everything made sense. You know what I mean? Like all the double shifts I was doing, all the sleepless nights studying roots, everything was worth it because it was for her. Carol decided to stay home to take care of Victoria, and I was completely okay with that, even though it meant I had to work more. I started doing longer routes. Sometimes I was away from home 4 or 5 days straight, and when I came back I was destroyed. But seeing my daughter run toward me screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy" made it all worth it. Carol was a good mother back then, honestly. She stayed home, cooked, cleaned, took care of Victoria. We didn't have much money, but we managed. The first few years were financially difficult, but good as a family. I worked like 14 hours a day, sometimes more. There were weeks I barely saw Victoria awake because I'd leave before she woke up and come back after she went to sleep. But weekends were ours. I'd take her to the park, buy her ice cream, even though Carol said it would ruin her teeth. We'd play, draw together. She was my little princess, literally. Everything I did was thinking about giving her a better life than I had, making sure she didn't lack anything, that she could have opportunities. Carol and I didn't have the best relationship in those years, I guess. We were tired, stressed about money. We fought more than we'd like to admit, but I never thought things would end the way they ended. When Victoria turned 7, everything changed. Carol got a job at an upscale cafe, one of those that charge like $8 for a coffee. She said she needed to get out of the house, that she was going crazy being locked up all day, and I understood her, honestly. Victoria was already in school, so Carol had free time. At first, everything seemed fine. Carol was happier, more upbeat, dressed up more. I thought it was good for her, having her own space, her own money, even though it wasn't much. But she started coming home late, sometimes smelling like alcohol, staying up late on her phone. I was working so much that I didn't pay the attention I should have. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. All the signs were there, but I was so tired and so focused on working that I didn't see it. Turns out, at that cafe there was this guy named Alexander who frequented it. Guy was like 55 years old at the time, divorced, with a ton of money. He had businesses, investments. I don't know exactly what he did, but he was rich. Let's say. And this man started flirting with Carol. He'd invite her for drinks after work, give her ridiculous tips, buy her gifts. Carol never told me any of this, obviously. I found out about everything later, when it was already too late. One night, I must have been like 34, Carol came home completely drunk. It was like 2 in the morning and I was awake, worried sick, because she wasn't answering her phone. Victoria was asleep. Thank God. Carol came in stumbling, threw herself on the couch and dropped everything on me. That she was having an affair with Alexander for months. that he made her feel special, that with me she only felt like a maid, that she was tired of living like this, counting every penny, not being able to buy herself nice things. She said she wanted a divorce, just like that. And what hurt me the most, what still hurts me to this day when I think about it, is that she didn't mention Victoria once in that entire conversation. I asked her, "What about our daughter?" And she just shrugged and said, I could keep her. That anyway, I was the one bringing in the money. The divorce was quick and brutal. Carol didn't even fight for custody. She signed everything I put in front of her, took her stuff, and left. Victoria cried every night asking where Mommy was, why she left, if she had done something wrong. How do you explain to a 7-year-old girl that her mother abandoned her for a guy with money? You can't. I told her that Mommy needed time for herself, that she still loved us. All those lies you tell to protect your kids even though you're dying inside. I was devastated. Literally. I had to work more than ever because now it was just my salary to maintain the house, but I also had to take care of Victoria alone. I hired a neighbor to watch her when I wasn't there, but it was still hard. There were days I'd come back from driving 10 hours and had to cook, clean, help with homework, bathe Victoria, and I did it all because she was my daughter and I loved her, more than anything in the world. What Carol did after was worse. Alexander never married her, by the way. They maintained this weird relationship where he supported her, paid for an apartment for her, gave her money, but they never formalized anything. And Carol started showing up in Victoria's life with expensive gifts. Every 2 weeks, she'd appear with toys, brand-name clothes, things I could never buy with my salary. Victoria started getting excited every time she saw her mother because she knew she was going to get something nice. And there I was, feeling like trash because I couldn't compete with that. I worked myself to death so Victoria wouldn't lack the basics: food, shelter, decent clothes, education, but Carol would arrive with a $200 doll and suddenly I was the bad guy. Years went by and I raised Victoria alone. The birthdays, homework nights, school presentations, when she got sick, when she had nightmares, when her heart got broken for the first time, everything was, to me. Carol would show up from time to time with her gifts and empty promises, but she was never really present. And the worst part is that Victoria started to change as she grew up. When she was like 15 or 16, it was already obvious that she preferred the lifestyle Carol represented. She started asking me for expensive things I couldn't afford, was embarrassed by my truck when I went to pick her up from school, said her friends had parents with better jobs. Every comment was a stab, but I swallowed the pain because she was my daughter. I loved her from the day she was born, and I thought it was just a phase. That when she matured, she would understand everything I sacrificed for her. When Victoria turned 18, things got worse. She went to study cosmetology, wanted to be a stylist, and I supported her completely, even though it meant more expenses. I paid for tuition, materials, everything. But Victoria spent more and more time with Carol. On weekends, she'd go to her mother's apartment, which was nice because Alexander paid for it. They'd go shopping, to fancy restaurants, to spas. Victoria would come home and look at me like our home, the house where I raised her, was a dump. She started dating guys from families with money, changed the way she talked, dressed, even her name on social media she changed to a more sophisticated nickname. And I kept working my double shifts, sending her money when she needed it, being the father I always was, but feeling like every day she valued me less. 2 years ago, when Victoria was 22, she met Tyler. This guy came from a super wealthy family. Traditional, one of those families that have an important last name and expect their children to marry people of their same social level. Tyler worked at his father's company, drove a brand new car, lived in an apartment his parents paid for, and Victoria was obsessed with him, with his family, with everything he represented. They finally got engaged, and Victoria started planning the wedding. An expensive wedding, by the way. Carol and Alexander, who were still in their weird toxic relationship, said they'd pay for most of it. But Victoria also asked me to contribute. I gave what I could. It wasn't much compared to what they were putting in, but it was money I needed for other things. I gave it because I thought it was important for my daughter. During the months of wedding planning, Victoria barely talked to me. Everything was about the dresses, the flowers, the venue, Tyler and his family. I thought it was normal, you know. Brides get really stressed about these things, until one day she tells me she needs to talk to me. But we went to get coffee. She ordered something complicated with, I don't know what kind of milk, and I got a regular coffee. And she drops on me that they've decided they're not going to do the tradition of the father walking the bride down the aisle. She said, it's patriarchal, that it represents the idea that the father hands over the daughter like property, that she's an independent woman and is going to walk alone. And I, even though it hurt, told her it was okay, that I respected her decision. Part of me felt relieved, honestly, because things between us were so tense that I thought maybe it was better that way. But turns out that was a lie. Total lie. Like a month before the wedding, I went to drop something off at Carol's house because Victoria needed it for, I don't know what, for the wedding. I knocked on the door, and no one answered, but I heard voices inside, so I went in. Carol had given me a key years ago for emergencies with Victoria, and I heard Victoria talking on the phone in the living room. She had her back turned and didn't see me come in. She was telling someone, I don't know, if a friend or the wedding planner, that she was excited because Alexander was going to walk her down the aisle, that it was going to be perfect, that Tyler and his family were going to be impressed because Alexander has a lot of class and sophistication. I stood there paralyzed at the entrance. Literally couldn't move. 17 years raising her alone, sacrificing everything, and she not only didn't want me to walk her down the aisle, but had asked Alexander, the guy who destroyed our family, to do it. When Victoria turned around and saw me standing there, she went pale. She hung up the phone immediately and started saying she could explain, that it wasn't what I thought, but I just asked her directly, is it true that Alexander is going to walk you down the aisle? And she didn't know what to say at first, just stood there stammering, until she finally admitted that yes, it was true. I asked her why. Why him, and not me? And Victoria, my daughter, who I raised alone for 17 years, looked at me and told me that Tyler and his family are very refined people, very sophisticated, and that I'm just a middle-class truck driver who doesn't fit with the image she wants to project at her wedding. She literally called me a middle-class piece of junk. She said Alexander has better presence, better clothes, better manners, that Tyler's parents would respect him more, that I probably wouldn't even know what fork to use at dinner, that I would embarrass her. I don't remember exactly what I felt in that moment. I think my brain kind of shut down because the pain was too much. I stood there looking at her, this 4-year-old woman who was my baby, my little princess, the reason I broke my back for over 2 decades, and I didn't recognize her. I told her, very calmly because I was in shock, that if that's how she felt, then I wasn't going to her wedding. Period. Victoria started getting hysterical, saying I was exaggerating. Why did I have to be like this? That I could go as a guest, that I didn't have to make drama. And there, something broke inside me. I told her that she had chosen money over me, appearances over real love, and that I chose my dignity. I left that apartment and didn't look back. The following days, Victoria called me like 1,000 times. Messages, calls, emails. Carol also contacted me saying I was ruining my daughter's most important day, that how could I be so selfish? Selfish. Me. The irony. I blocked Victoria on everything. Phone, social media, email, everything. I needed peace. And I wasn't going to have it if I kept receiving her manipulative messages. I told her by message before blocking her that I loved her, but that I couldn't continue in her life if she saw me as a nuisance, as something to be ashamed of. And that was it. On the wedding day, I was at home. I had asked for the day off from work, something I almost never do, and stayed in my living room watching TV, trying not to think about the fact that my only daughter was getting married, and I wasn't there. I was having some beers, feeling miserable, when my phone started ringing. It was a number I didn't know. Normally I don't answer unknown numbers, but something made me answer. It was the friend of Victoria's, I don't remember the name, telling me I needed to get to the wedding urgently because something terrible had happened and Victoria needed me. Turns out Carol arrived at the wedding totally wasted, like couldn't even walk straight, and she started flirting with Tyler's dad. literally in front of everyone, touching his arm, laughing exaggeratedly, making inappropriate comments. People were uncomfortable. Tyler and his family were horrified. And then Alexander and Carol started fighting in the middle of the reception. Carol, in her drunken state, started screaming that Alexander had been cheating on her for years with other women, that he never married her because he was a liar and a womanizer, that he only kept her as his convenient mistress. Alexander tried to calm her down, but Carol was out of control. She grabbed Alexander's phone and started showing people messages with other women. Photos, everything. It was a total disaster. Tyler's parents and several guests left in the middle of the scandal. The wedding, which was supposed to be this elegant and sophisticated event that Victoria had been planning for months, turned into a circus. And Victoria, my daughter, who was so worried about appearances and fitting in with Tyler's family, was completely humiliated. That's why they were calling me, because Victoria needed me to go there and somehow fix the mess, like I had always done throughout her life. But this time I didn't go. I told the friend who was calling that I wasn't going, that Victoria had made her choices and now had to live with the consequences. I hung up and turned off my phone. I felt bad. I'm not going to lie. Part of me wanted to run out there, hug my daughter, tell her everything was going to be okay. But another part, the part that had been accumulating pain and resentment for years, kept me on that couch. Because the truth is that for 24 years my life had revolved around Victoria, sacrificing myself for her, always being there. And she had treated me like trash. And I allowed it to happen, because I thought that's what parents do. Endure everything. But there's a limit. 2 days after the wedding, I received an email from Victoria. She had created a new account just to write to me because I had blocked her everywhere. The email was long, basically saying she was sorry for hurting me, that she hadn't realized how much she had hurt me with her words, but also, and this killed me, she was also blaming me for what happened at the wedding. She said that, if I had been there, I would have been able to control Carol, that the wedding wouldn't have been ruined, that it was my responsibility as her father to have supported her on the most important day of her life no matter what happened between us. Even in her apology, she was blaming me. I didn't respond to that email. I didn't respond to the next one or the next one. It's been 3 months, and I still haven't responded. Tyler and Victoria are still married, as far as I know. I heard somewhere that Tyler's family was so horrified by all the drama that they keep their distance. I don't know the details, and honestly, I don't care. Carol and Alexander finally broke up after the wedding disaster. It was inevitable. Alexander got tired of Carol's alcohol problems, and Carol got tired of being the eternal mistress. Victoria has to deal with all that alone now, and a very small part of me feels sorry for her, but most of me feels like it's exactly what she needed, a reality check. I've started going to therapy. Something I never thought I'd do, but my friends from work convinced me to try. My therapist tells me I need to work on establishing healthy boundaries, that sacrificing yourself doesn't mean letting people walk all over you, that I can love my daughter and at the same time protect myself from her toxic behavior. It's hard. I'm not going to lie. There are days I grab my phone thinking about calling her, asking her how she is. But then I remember, in her face, when she told me I was an embarrassment to her, and I put the phone away. The weird thing is that since I cut contact with Victoria, my life has actually improved a bit. I have more time for myself, something I hadn't had in decades. I joined a biker club, nothing heavy, just guys my age who go out riding on weekends, and I've made friends. Good friends who don't judge me for my job or how much money I make. We go out for beers, go to games, talk about our lives. Several of them have gone through divorces and problems with kids, so they understand what I'm going through. For the first time in a long time, I feel part of something. You know, like I belong to a group where I don't have to constantly prove my worth. One of my friends from the club, his name is Mike, convinced me a few weeks ago to create a profile on a dating app. At first I thought it was ridiculous, that at 51 years old, who would want me? But Mike told me to stop being dramatic and to try it. So I did. I put up some photos, nothing fancy, just me being me. Wrote something honest about my life, about being a truck driver, about having an adult daughter I don't talk to. Everything. I thought no one was going to write to me, but I was wrong. I've had several interesting conversations with women who are also in complicated situations, divorced, with their own family drama, and it's weird, but it's also nice to feel like there are people out there who see me as something more than an ATM or a nuisance. There's one woman in particular, Casey, 47 years old, divorced 3 years ago, works as a nurse. We've been chatting for 2 weeks, and we have plans to meet this weekend for coffee. I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie. I haven't been on a date in like 25 years, literally don't even know how to do this now. But my friends are helping me. They took me to buy a new shirt because apparently all of mine are too old. Gave me advice on what to say and what not to say. It's almost funny. I feel like a teenager again, but in a good way, like there's something exciting in my life that isn't pain or sacrifice. I don't know if Victoria and I are ever going to fix things. Part of me hopes so, that someday she'll mature enough to understand what I did for her, to apologize for real, without blaming me, to want to have a genuine relationship with me. But another part of me has already accepted that maybe that's never going to happen, and I'm trying to be at peace with that. I've spent 24 years of my life putting her first, sacrificing my happiness, my health, my relationships, everything for her. And now, for the first time, I'm putting myself first. I don't know if that makes me selfish or bad or everything people say I am, but I know it was necessary. I can't keep being anyone's emotional doormat, not even my daughter's. Last week, one of the guys from the club asked me if I missed Victoria. I told him the truth, that I missed the girl she was, the baby who ran toward me screaming, "Daddy," when I came back from long trips, the 7-year-old girl who thought I was her hero, but the woman she became, the one who called me junk and was ashamed of me, I don't miss her. And maybe that sounds horrible, I don't know, but that's where I am now. I'm learning to live with that pain, with that loss, but I'm also learning that I deserve people in my life who value me, who respect me, who see me for who I really am, and not for what I can give them, or how I can make them look good. This weekend, I'm going to have my date with Casey. The guys are going to help me get ready, they're going to give me encouragement, they'll probably tease me all week about it. And for the first time, in a long time, I have something to look forward to that doesn't involve pain or family drama. It's something just for me, something that could make me happy. I don't know if it's going to work out with Casey or with someone else, but the point is, I'm trying. I'm moving forward. I'm living my life, instead of just existing for others. And that, I guess, is a start.